This is the EVP Podcast.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the EVP Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Beaker.
And I am one of your other hosts, Ghosty.
There's no other host.
There's another host, but he's never here.
Dave is not a host. I said that last week.
I meant DVO.
Oh, DVO. Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
In case you forgot what he looks like, go back and watch our first episode. Actually, go to episode 2. Watch the episode.
Or go to our social media. He's all over that.
Yeah, on social media. He does reaction videos.
All day, every day.
Yeah. He's a good guy. Okay, so last week we talked about cryptids. Cryptids.
Go talk about Crips and Bloods.
Cryptids. We're talking about the Crips and Bloods and the rivalry. That's what we talked about last week. We talked about some West Virginia cryptids.
West Virginia. 2
of them I think were not real.
Yeah.
Go back and listen. Although we did have Nicole, Queen of Cryptids, commented on it, and she just said, "Cryptids, yes, I love this episode."
Yeah, we should have another one with her on.
I need to work something out with her because I want to have her come back and talk about Mothman. Yeah.
Or we can just do 3 more West Virginia cryptids.
We could.
There's a ton out there.
Well, if you want, she knows all the cryptids, like Jeff the Talking Mongoose. It's a real thing.
I believe
it's a made up real cryptid. Anyways, Candace, she finally got back to us about whether or not she watched The Pope's Exorcist.
And?
She said, finally watched it, was good, reminded me much of the original Exorcist movie and a little bit of The Conjuring, but it was good. Always wondering why with exorcism names are important. I'll answer that right now. According to theology, mythology, whatever you want to call it, OG. Demonology. Knowing the name, or Hollywood.
Yeah.
Hollywoodology. Knowing the name of the entity or the demon or whatever apparently gives you power over it and lets you control it, which is why it's important to know its name.
See, and I would think that would be reversed. I would think it'd give it more power that you know its name. It's like, oh, so you have heard of me. Ha!
Well, I didn't write the mythology of Catholicism. I mean, I didn't write it. I don't know. I didn't write the rules. Apparently, that's the thing, is that's why if you know the entity's name, it gives you power over it.
Yeah, and I say bullshit to that. And I would say if I was a demon and somebody was like, "Oh yeah, is that your name? Oh, well, I've heard of you." I'm like, "Oh, you have? Awesome. Feed my ego."
Yeah, you think it would work that way. That to me makes more sense.
Exactly.
But no, that's why apparently, it gives you control over.
I don't get that.
Entity.
I don't get it.
Hey, look, that's
well,
what
I also don't get religion either.
That's what Hollywoodology has taught me. We also had another comment on the Father Mort episode from Chris. He said, "What's going on with Nadia?" And it's like, "Oh, it's just nothing. She's just having one of her regular attacks." You know, Nadia is the sister before I played clips of The Exorcist. And then he also said, "That's right. Give me the spooky." I don't know what he meant by that, but
yeah,
maybe
get that spooky on.
Get the spooky. Yes.
Get that spooky.
So I did look something up. I thought it was Dave. He doesn't know how to sell stuff. Remember the pizza rolls?
Yeah.
And how amazing he said they were, and it literally just sounded like a pizza sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
Like you just put a slice of pepperoni on a dinner roll.
Yeah.
Bro, that's not how they do it. I looked it up.
It's more elaborate.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you make the dough and you cut up pepperoni and put it in the dough and then bake it.
Yeah, that's what he said.
No, I listened to it like 3 times.
Yeah.
He literally just made it sound like it was a pepperoni sandwich.
Yep, that's what it sounded like.
It literally sounded like he said you just take pepperoni and put it, and the way he described it didn't sound good. Looking up recipes, it's actually, try it.
Really?
We should try it.
Okay, let's make it. Let's make it.
Right now.
Yeah.
Okay, show's over. We're going to make people. No, it literally looks like you bake the pepperoni inside the dough.
Yeah.
Like you're not just throwing it on, you're not just making a pepperoni sandwich. That just seems weird.
Well, no, it sounded like you had raw dough and then you just kind of poke a hole in it with the pepperoni and kind of leave the pepperoni and bake it.
That's not what he said at all.
That's what I got out of it.
Am
I right?
I mean, yeah, that's right.
Okay, then that's what I got out of it.
That's what you got out of it. That's not what he was saying. Go back and listen.
Okay. I don't know. That's kind of what I was picturing.
Anyways,
in my
West
head.
Virginia pepperoni rolls. They're a thing. They're delicious.
I'm totally down, though. I still am. I said I wasn't. I still am. I haven't changed my mind.
Okay. Oh, so here in Salt Lake over the weekend, there was the Oddities and Curiosity Expo.
And we both went.
We both went, not at the same time, but we both went.
Different days.
This is my third time going. This was your first?
This was my cherry popping event.
What did you think of the Oddities Expo?
I liked all the stuff there, but I don't know. I went kind of early. It wasn't that packed, but it also isn't that close to Halloween yet. And I just kind of was thinking there'd be more Halloween stuff there. I guess I don't know.
Well, so what they did different this year is they actually did 2 days instead of one. Mm-hmm. So last year, because they only did the 1 day, it was packed. Like I had to wait an hour in line just to get in.
Got busy the longer I was there.
No, so last year I went right when they opened at 10 o'clock.
Line.
I had to wait an hour in line just to get in. That's how popular it is. That's why I think they did 2 days this year to spread it out. So not everybody was there all at once.
Yeah.
From what I understand, they kind of travel the country, and I think they do this thing year round. It's called the Oddities and Curiosity Expo. They have a lot of cool stuff, like different artists there drawing different stuff. They have taxidermy stuff. Mm-hmm. They have like creepy dolls. If you're into that weird random stuff, like last year I got the serial killer paraphernalia. I got John Wayne Gacy's like death certificate, and I got like Ed Gein's like thumbprints and like a picture of his headstone. So
there was this one cool thing that looked pretty cool. It was a taxidermy thing. It was like, those frame shadow boxes.
Yeah.
And it was a pig fetus with a butterfly wings attached to it.
That's pretty cool.
It was, it was one of those funny things. It was something that was, I don't know, bathroom art.
Yeah, if you want to see some of the stuff that they kind of sell there, you can either go to their website or check out our Instagram. I know Ghosty posted some pictures.
Yeah, I posted some reels on there, or stories. That was pretty. Some of the crazy cool stuff they had there.
Yeah, it's a fun expo if you're into that kind of stuff. Like
cat that was getting autopsy done.
Yes, the autopsy cat. That is pretty cool.
It was a lot of grotesque stuff, but a lot of cool, funny stuff. I got some funny stickers.
I know this weekend they're going to be in Vegas.
We should go to Vegas.
We should. Unfortunately, I'm overtime. Yay.
Boo.
So yeah. So I found this documentary on Discovery Plus, and I was curious. So I sent it to you, and I said, "Let's watch this," and we did.
Would it be the first time you were curious?
Sometimes I'm a lot of curious. So there was this documentary. It's called "The Curse of the Highgate Vampire," and I was like, "Let's see what this is about." And so I did. The end.
And you told me
I
to
told
see
you
what it's about. And I did.
And that was it.
And then here we are.
Welcome to the end of the show. So no, I thought it was interesting because we haven't really done a show on vampires.
Not really at all.
I don't think we have. So well, they're not real.
Yep, they're not.
They're definitely not real. But unless you're this guy, one of the two guys we're going to be talking about. There's two guys that were kind of involved in this. So Highgate is like a little, I guess, a subdivision or like a suburban area of London.
North London.
Yeah, North London. And back in
70s, baby.
1968 is where we start. It was mostly in the 70s. So first off, Highgate Cemetery has been around since like 1830. So we know, like in American standards, according to the EVP podcast, it's definitely haunted because it's over 100 years old. Mm-hmm. Usually we say like 500 years for England, but
it didn't get established.
But I mean, there's reports of it being haunted as far back as 1808, so at least 200 years.
I'm sure there's a lot of death there still.
Most likely.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like this is a small cemetery, but what's funny is so it kind of, like I said, it started back in like 1968. There was actually another cemetery that was nearby that had some goings on. It was called Tottenham Park Cemetery. And someone actually went in. It was October 31st, 1968. Someone went into the cemetery And this is what they found in this cemetery. So, like I said, this cemetery is not too far from Highgate. So they think that like some of the stuff is like connected. But they said these persons arranged flowers taken from graves in a circular pattern with arrows of blooms pointing to a new grave. Okay. So this grave was actually uncovered. And the coffin was open and the body inside had been disturbed. But the most macabre act was the fact that someone drove an iron stake in the form of a cross through the lid and into the breast of the corpse. So this is one of the first things. And I guess there was like a lot of vandalism that was going on in this cemetery, in Highgate Cemetery, around this time. Nobody knows why, except for David Farrant, who thinks that there were Satanists there trying to summon something. And he thinks that they might have been successful in the Highgate Cemetery. Thinks that they summoned some sort of entity.
When was LSD created?
You would know better than me.
I think around the same time.
Quite possibly. I think it was actually the 50s, but...
when was it running rampant around the streets of London?
It could have been this time. I have no idea. So it's funny because, like, so David Farrant actually went and saw, like, I guess he was walking by the cemetery or if he was investigating or something. So David Farrant, just so a little background on him, he was actually the
psychic.
He wasn't a psychic. He was the founder and like the
Highgate Vampire Society.
No. The British Occult Society or something like that.
British.
Yep.
Occult Society.
Yep, I have like 3 different websites. He wasn't the Highgate Society. I'm sure he was the head of the Highgate Society at one point, which is a more modern society. He was the head of the British Psychic and Occult Society. So,
yeah,
yes.
Psychic.
Yes. So people had reported seeing something, this tall black apparition in Highgate, so he was asked to investigate. Excuse me. And he saw this tall, like gray, shadowy figure in the cemetery. So he was convinced, obviously there's something there. So he actually took out an article in one of the local newspapers, and I think it was like the very next day, he had like 4 responses. So in like the next edition of the newspaper, like 4 people responded saying that they had seen the same thing. So they're kind of like investigating, trying to figure out what this is. He's thinking that there was people there doing like satanic rituals, okay? And that they had, like I said, summoned this thing. And I don't know if he was like trying to like get rid of it or if he was just trying to figure out what it was or why it was there. But all of a sudden, like in 1970, this other dude pops up out of nowhere named Sean Manchester. And he's like, oh yes, this is definitely something here. And I know exactly what it is. It's a vampire. And not only is it a vampire, it is a king vampire.
Because the king vampires are worse.
Right.
They're they're kings.
And I guess this Sean Manchester guy actually got witnesses to come forward saying that
definitely a king vampire.
That it was definitely a king vampire. That this thing was like attacking them in their homes.
He didn't even like say what the difference.
No.
It was a king vampire.
It was a king vampire.
So you know it's dangerous.
Right.
It's the worst there is.
I guess, I don't know. As far as I know, a king is just someone that rules over other vampires, so it's not like they have extraordinary powers. Not that they're not even real. Yeah, so this dude is like, it is a king vampire. And I think it was somewhere in my notes.
Yeah, that's where you left it.
We're so good at this game. So it was March of 1970. Sean Manchester decides that on Friday the 13th, he's going to exorcise this vampire. He's going to perform an exorcism. He's going to get rid of this thing. And in this interview, it's funny because like I've read a couple of websites. I've listened to some other podcasts about this, and I'm going to kind of lean more towards like what was in the documentary is more accurate because it looked like they had an actual interview with David Farrant in it, right?
Right.
So I'm going to kind of believe what the guy says about himself as opposed to what other people were saying about him. First off, I do know that it seems like, obviously he was the head of the British Psychic and Occult Society. Uh-huh. The dude was, I believe he was Wiccan. If not Wiccan, he was some sort of pagan. Right?
Yeah.
And can you imagine like pagans back in the 70s? Everyone's going to think they're weird. People think pagans are weird now.
Well, I mean, he was doing some cool pictures.
I know, like, during the course of his investigations and stuff, they started doing, like, sex magic.
Sex magic is the best kind of magic.
I think so, too. I forgot
it's the most powerful.
It's the most powerful. It's amazing. You should try it. But, yeah, so, I mean, he was doing his occult stuff, his Wicca stuff, and people thought it was weird, so they were like finding ways to arrest this guy.
Well, what's funny is like back then they were thinking that's weird. Now it's like a Nicki Minaj video,
right? So yeah, back then it was weird. But I guess this Sean Manchester, I guess he had it out for David Farrant for some reason. So when he said he was going to perform this exorcism, he was like convincing people that David Farrant was also trying to go and slay this vampire, and so the cops show, and I guess it had to be done like right at midnight. So they, cemetery's locked down. Cops show up to kind of keep people out, and like hundreds of people from all over the place show up to this thing. Supposed vampire slayers, like paranormal enthusiasts, whatever.
It's gonna be a vampire slay off.
Yeah, right.
It's a vampire slay off.
This is London in the 70s.
Bring your own stakes.
Yeah, they did. They brought their own stakes, and the cops were outnumbered. So people they climbed the walls, they broke in, they got into the cemetery.
Oh shit!
They were tearing things apart, searching for this king vampire because they wanted to be the ones to kill the vampire.
Oh shit!
Unfortunately, no one did. They just tore up the cemetery.
Damn.
Yeah, and what's funny is like I said, David Farrant got arrested a couple times. For being in the cemetery. They claimed that they saw him with like a wooden stake walking around the cemetery. One of the times he got arrested, it didn't even go to trial. Like when he got into the courthouse, it was dismissed immediately because technically he was in a non-restricted area of the cemetery when they found him, so they couldn't really pin anything on him. But yeah, this Sean Manchester basically it was like, David Farrant was like popular with this whole entity that was in the Highgate Cemetery. And I just, in my opinion, I think Sean Manchester saw the popularity and the fame that he was getting. So he's like, oh, it's a vampire.
Yeah.
So people started following him. Wanted to see what he's doing. And I think this whole insurrection, this mob attacking the cemetery started this big feud between David and Sean for 40 years.
Well, one dude ended up getting arrested and serving 4 years.
Yeah, David Farrant got arrested for 4 years.
Well, that whole story was crazy. So that somebody went and broke into the cemetery and dug a whole body up.
And put it out in the road.
And then dragged it out to the road. Well, they said first they threw it into the back of a Mini Coupe.
Yeah, it was the back of the brand new Mini Cooper, and then in the morning it was just laying out in the street.
What?
And I think David Farrant was nearby when the body was found.
No, his house was close by.
His house was close by. So yeah, they pinned it on him, and he served 4 years.
4.5 years.
Yeah, 4.5 years.
And he's like, I think they just needed a scapegoat.
Yeah, I honestly think so too. He said it wasn't him. He said it was the Satanists.
It was either them or other dude.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was other dude.
I was pretty sure it was other
because
dude.
The more I learned about other dude, Sean Manchester. Yeah, Sean Manchester, by the way. This guy seemed like a freaking whack job.
Yeah.
So I know at one point, he was on his mission. He was going to slay this head vampire. Sean Manchester was.
He's just the guy to do it.
And I guess he had some of his followers at one point. They're in there and they find this coffin that he thinks looks odd, and he's assuming it's the head vampire. and he's gonna open it up and like drive a stake through the heart of this body. And one of his followers are like, no. There's like laws against this. You can get prosecuted really heavily here in England. So they convinced him to just shut the lid and put like 7 cloves of garlic on it. And that just like, I guess, held the vampire at bay for a while. But it got to the point where I don't know if it was before or after David got arrested, but Sean ended up in 1974, ends up going into the cemetery with his psychic medium. And the claim is that like David was also using a medium trying to hunt the vampire. And in the interview that they played in the documentary, everything I've read on, one of the websites I read is David, I forgot his last name as we're talking about him. David Farrant, sorry. On davidfarrant.org. Obviously, it's his website, so I think they're going to be a little biased towards him. But, the documentary wasn't made by David Farrant. I think he passed away before this documentary was even made. But they had this, interview that he did at one point. And several times in the interview, he's like, I never once claimed that it was a vampire. I didn't believe it was a vampire.
He's like, I don't believe in vampires.
He's like, I don't believe in vampires. But this other Sean Manchester was like, oh yeah, no, he's a vampire hunter. He's going to try to find it, but I want to find it before he does. And he even used the term ghost like loosely. David Farrant did. Because I don't think he even kind of really believed in ghosts, but he knew there was something there. Yeah,
he was saying that he believes that some kind of entity that can drain your, like an energy vampire. Or
right. And I guess at one point he did say it had characteristics, looks of a vampire, but he didn't say it was an actual vampire.
Yeah.
And so what Manchester did is he went back in the cemetery using his psychic medium that told him, or his psychic, that helped him pinpoint the exact crypt and tomb and catacombs that this head vampire's coffin was in. And they go in there, and sure enough, there's a coffin in there. Excuse me. That looks like it's was placed there from a different country. Like it wasn't supposed to be there. And this was the coffin of the head vampire. The king vampire was in this coffin. So he drove his wooden stake, and at one point he calls it the Van Helsing. This thing is like a 4-foot wooden stake.
Yeah.
And they said, I think they were saying the appropriate way to kill it, I guess at this point it changed from exercising it at midnight to stabbing it with a cross. It had to be done at dawn between a Friday and a Saturday.
That's the best time.
That's the best time, I guess, to slay a vampire with your 4-foot wooden stake.
Well, it's the most convenient for him. He had to work Monday through Friday.
Probably. So he stabs this body, right, with this big-ass wooden stake. And that wasn't enough. They then set the casket on fire. And then after it burned for a couple hours, they were able to get the remains, the bones and all that, and grind them up.
And the family came back to visit the grave of their family.
Probably. They're like, what the hell? Yeah. So thus killing the king vampire. So the king vampire at Highgate Prison died in 1974.
Thank God.
I know, right? Except for the fact that even still to this day, in 2023, people still see this entity at the cemetery.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot more than just that one entity in that cemetery.
Yeah, I'm sure there is too. Like, it's a cemetery, right? But this same entity that David Farrant originally saw, like, people are still seeing it today. Like, it's still there. So, don't think it was vanquished with the stake and the burning. I could be wrong.
Nope.
What I found interesting with this whole thing is, like I said, David Farrant never once said it was a vampire. He never thought it was a vampire from what he said in his interview.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I know, like, at some point, like, you know, he did talk about doing the sex magic and saying how dangerous it was because they could have possibly, like...
It was just too ahead of its time, man.
It could have gone wrong, and they could have summoned the wrong thing, but...
succubuses.
Right?
I was hoping for succubuses.
Yeah, but they didn't come. No.
Oh, they're dead.
Well, and the thing is, they did talk about, like, this entity didn't just haunt the cemetery; it haunted buildings nearby. One of them being like a local pub.
Yes, the Highgate pub.
The Highgate pub, yes. And
Definitely ghosts in there, though.
and I think David bought a house that was like right across the street from the cemetery, so went in there. I know the pub, and there was a couple other buildings.
So in the episode that we watched, that documentary, when they have their little investigative team and then their psychic medium with them.
Yeah, let's talk about them.
Well, here's the funny thing. I don't know that medium. So when they were standing in front of the cemetery and they were shining the flashlight down that center of that road.
Yeah, they're standing outside the gates locked. They're not actually in the
inside.
cemetery.
So they're standing outside the gates. They're shining a flashlight up the road, down the pathway. And I'm looking at it, trying to see if I can see anything or feel anything. And I'm seeing stuff at the end of that road. I can kind of see some stuff. And then she says it too right after I'm seeing it. I don't know if you saw some stuff.
I was watching on my phone, so I need to watch it on my TV so I can actually see it. But
I was like, it looks like I can see some shit right there. And
I'm sure there was, because she said she could feel something or see something. And she said it definitely wasn't the entity that David Farrant saw. Definitely not a vampire.
Mm-hmm. It seemed like there was a few of them all kind of back there.
There was she was feeling a bunch of different stuff. But what I thought was interesting is, I guess in I think it was like 1973, the feud between David and Sean got really heated, that they were apparently going to do some kind of magician's
celebrity
duel.
Boxing match.
Yeah, well, a celebrity boxing match, but a magician's duel.
Jedi mind trick face off.
Exactly. Which it never happened, but that was the report that these two were gonna do their duel in front of people to see who the better.
It was a Zuckerberg Musk face off event, but back then it's
like what's better, X or Facebook, Meta. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, these guys feuded for like 40 years until David passed away in like 2019. What I thought was interesting is I thought it was funny because I think Sean Manchester came out with a book about the Highgate Vampire, and then shortly after, David came out with a book that was basically
him slaying.
It's like behind the Highgate Vampire, like the true story of like what really happened. So I mean, these dudes they went at each other for like I said 40 years.
Petty. It's just about who could be the most petty at that point.
Pretty much. I'm leaning more with, I think David was more accurate. I think it was just some kind of entity that someone probably brought in. Vampire? No way in hell.
I think there's just been multiple entities in there, and they always have been. And whether the Satanists came in there summoning shit or not, it was already haunted.
Right.
The other dude is just crazy and wants attention.
I think Sean Manchester,
definitely just wants attention.
That's the one you think wants attention.
I don't even want to say his name.
The one that
I don't even want to say. Have I said his name once?
No. You just keep saying the other guy because he's crazy.
Because I'm not going to give him that power.
Well, it's not.
Yeah.
But you know what I think is funny?
Feed his ego.
This is how crazy this dude is, right? So there's a couple of people that came forward in that documentary. That one girl read Manchester's book. Okay. And in the book, he like plotted out like where he did some of his searching and his evidence and where he got some of his evidence.
Oh, yeah.
And she went and mapped it out. She went and tried to follow his book.
She went to the cemetery.
With his book and tried to map out what he said things were, and nothing lined up. Nothing matched.
Well, the pettiness never stopped.
No, it didn't, because she called him out on it. She wrote a blog or an article.
So what did this petty son of a bitch do to her?
He starts going through her Facebook friends list and starts instant messaging all of her friends, telling them that she's a liar and she's worthless and just like trying to make her look like a bad, saying that she's a bad person.
The petty don't stop.
No. And then he would send her pictures of like fat people and say, "This is you."
Yeah, no, he was like posting pictures of sending. Yeah, he was
like posting pictures and like tagging her in it or sending her pictures.
something like to that effect. But yeah,
of like, oh, this fat person's you. Like calling her fat. It's like, come on, man.
Petty.
Petty. It gets even more petty because there's another investigator that's been studying this case for like 20 years. Okay. She's also read the books, and she was just asking him questions because stuff didn't seem to be lining up for her either, according to what he wrote. So he starts like emailing her and messaging her, telling her that she needs to stop all this nonsense, or that there's going to be like legal repercussions and he's going to ruin her life and he's going to sue her.
Yeah,
and,
legal action is going to take place.
And the lady's like, yeah, he's never done anything.
Nothing's happened.
But they did talk about one of the ways, there were several buildings that were connected by this ley line, like to the cemetery, to the forest, to some of these buildings. They're all connected by this ley line, and this lady went out with her dowsing rods that just looked like two sticks.
Yeah, there were two sticks cut off a tree.
Yeah. She was saying she was following the ley line. Like, I believe in ley lines, they're a thing, and I believe you can use dowsing rods to follow them, but it looked like she just picked two sticks up off the ground, and she's like, oh yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
So that's
like she was just like holding them all tight too. Like
right.
It looks like
they weren't even curved or anything. Like the metal ones we used, they were literally just two sticks.
Two sticks that
she was like holding them closer to their body, and she's like, "Oh, see how they're pointing this way? I don't understand. I don't know. I mean, maybe someone knows that they can tell me like how wooden sticks work as dowsing rods.
I don't know. That looked
I know
weird.
they do work. Like dowsing rods, like they used to use them to find water back in the day. So I mean, that's a thing.
Unless I don't know, they were copper and they were hollowed out and somehow slid a.
I have no idea. I couldn't make sense of it.
I don't know either.
But what I thought was interesting is that paranormal investigation team that they kind of focused on in this documentary. Mm-hmm. They like took a tour because apparently paranormal investigators are banned from the cemetery. You're not allowed to investigate. Uh-huh. So they paid for a walking tour, and then when their tour guide wasn't looking, they snuck off to do an investigation. And they went down in one of the crypts, and they actually asked the spirit what his name was, and they got David on the spirit box. And then the guy was like pointing the camera towards his face and asked for the spirit to show up behind him, and there was a quick little blip like something came in and out.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Bug. And this was what sparked this whole thing all over again from the 70s and everything. And because it had been long forgotten about.
Yeah, this came about because of this.
And so this guy took this
new
video.
Evidence.
This guy took this video and then he posted it, and
it blew up,
went viral, and then everybody this whole thing just reopened again, and everybody started going back again. But that video, it's not like you can tell that's not like a great camera or anything, and the refresh rate, who knows, is like 30 frames per second or 60.
Right.
So with how fast that happened, you just see that kind of like a
pop in and pop out, and it was really quick. It was like less than a second.
It looked like, and then the guy even talked about, I heard like a humming.
Yeah.
Like maybe like wings flapping.
Right.
So my thought was like some kind of like a beetle, moth, or something big that flew by, and it only caught it as a blur on like one of the frames. And it probably flew by in two of those frames.
Well, it looks like it flew in, it came in and then out back in the same. So it looks like it came from like his right shoulder and then went back.
To me, it just looked like a bug flew towards the camera.
That's possible.
And the way it just kind of, how fast it was going, probably popped into like 1 to 2 frames. So by the time it popped into one of the frames and the refresh rate, however long that takes, by the time the other frame came up, that was already out of the picture.
Yeah, so if you want to see like the video that we're talking about, you can Google it. It's on, or YouTube. It's probably the Highgate Vampire. You might be able to find it. I know if you go on Discovery Plus and watch the documentary, it's called The Curse of the Highgate Vampire. It's like right at the beginning of this thing. I'm leaning more towards with you on this one because when they were investigating the pub across the street, he'd said something that shows me that he has absolutely no idea how cameras work. And do you know what I'm talking about?
What did he say?
So he's got his camera pointed at a wall, right? And he turns around and points the camera up the stairs, and it goes blurry.
Oh, because it's having to. Yes. And he's like, my camera's blurry.
It's blurry. To me, that's evidence and proof that there's an entity at the top of the stairs. And it's like, no, dude, you were literally pointing at a wall like 2 feet in front of you, and then you turned around. You turned around real quick and pointed it up a set of stairs that's probably like 30 feet away, if not more.
Yeah.
That your camera needs time to focus. Like, I personally have videoed a lot of paranormal investigations using night vision over the last 10 years. And that happened to me quite a bit. especially when I was focused on something close by, and then I turned it and it was trying to focus on something that was far away. That's how cameras work. If you ever watch a movie, you ever notice how like if the camera wants you to focus on the person in the foreground, the background's blurry.
Yeah.
And then you'll watch it change when they want you to focus on the background.
Yeah,
the background's clear.
That's
right.
a feature.
Right.
Yeah.
That's literally what his camera was doing, is just trying to focus, because you went from something close up to something far away.
Granted, there is ghosts in there, but
I'm not saying there's a ghost, but
they were not causing the autofocus feature to do its job properly.
No, they were not. Like, it's like when I see stuff like this, I'm just like, you're not a legitimate ghost hunter, or at least, I mean, like, maybe you should just
don't use that as proof.
Maybe learn how the camcorder works before you're like going on a documentary that like millions of people are probably going to see.
And then we're going to make fun of you on.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not done making fun of people.
Good.
We've made fun of Sean Manchester because he like tracks people down and tries to ruin their lives because they disagree with him.
Yeah.
How petty bullshit is that? These guys that are just like, oh, did you notice their medium just kept going like, it feels like it's draining my energy. You ever notice in like TV shows and whenever there's a medium, like not discrediting mediums or psychics, but it seems like there's a flair for the dramatic when it comes to being on TV.
Yeah.
Like, so their medium did that quite a bit. I listened to another podcast about this. And I'm not going to say the name of the podcast, but it is a recent one, less than a year old. It came out in October last year. They did some research, and they talked about how David was like this crazy vampire hunter and was like all mad that Sean Manchester killed the head vampire. And that's why he went on his rampage and like desecrated the body, and that's what got him landed in jail or something like that. Basically, everything they talked about on this case, I don't know where they got their information because I couldn't find any of it. My favorite part, though, is when they read on one website, they saw the spelling of vampire, Wampyre, and they were pronouncing it Wampire. Wampire, and they were making fun of that. They're like, "Oh, what is it, a wampire? Ha ha ha," or whatever. They were making fun of that, like saying, and they even go on to say like, "Oh, vampire," or more commonly known as a vampire. And man, if you were in my car with me, you would have heard me. I was yelling and swearing. I'm like, "You freaking morons!" I'm like, "It's not English. That is another language." For those of us that are a little bit educated, German, they pronounce their W's with V's. So the actual pronunciation of that is vampire.
Vampire.
Not vampire. So if you find this episode, you'll probably be like, yep, they're morons. I'm sorry. Like, we're not the best. I know it's...
I know I say some dumb shit sometimes.
We say some... Yeah, like today's episode is brought to you by the letter alcohol. I've said some dumb shit. I couldn't read Street Glide on one of our reviews. Like, we both said some dumb shit.
I can't read
but
something.
But we're not, like, confidently wrong. We're just wrong. And we know it.
Right. You call me out, I'll laugh at it. I'm like, you know what? You're probably right.
Well, I'm the same way. Like, you know, Dave probably did talk about the pizza rolls correctly, and I'm just stupid when it comes to pizza rolls.
The comprehension.
But it's like, if you're gonna, like, I guess more power to you. I mean, if you're gonna be wrong, own it. It just, to me, I mean, when I heard that, it's like, that just makes you look stupid. I don't want to listen. They had another episode about Ouija boards, and I kind of want to listen to that so I can yell at that one too, and how wrong they are. And I hope you guys do that to us. I want you yell at us and tell us how wrong we are, and then email us and let us know.
Oh, speaking of wrong things,
what's wrong?
That EVP I sent you that I picked up from the TV.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch it.
Oh, you didn't?
No, it should play it.
Okay.
Play it for me.
I'll play this. So anyways, I was watching that Paranormal Caught on Camera.
Okay.
And they were...
Oh yeah, so we're done with the vampire story. Like, it wasn't a vampire.
Yeah,
the vampires
we've moved on.
We've moved on. Vampires aren't real.
This is vampire.
Sean Manchester is a moron.
Yeah, F that guy.
Yeah.
Petty ass bitch.
But if you've been to the cemetery, let us know. We want to hear about it. Okay, now that we're done with the vampire...
Okay, so this EVP...
he found an EVP. He's going to play it.
Well, the reason why I recorded this to play for you guys was because
So was the EVP part of the show?
yes, as part of the show, not the show we were watching, is the
No, this is
Paranormal Count on
yeah,
Camera.
Paranormal Count on Camera.
Paranormal Count on Camera, and they're at this one place. It was haunted. Somebody had taken this picture. Well, I think it was an employee.
You can't get an EVP on a picture.
I know, but listen.
Okay.
So they were feeling this thing, like there was an entity there.
Hot.
Yeah, they felt like there was an entity. They saw the shadow. They took a picture of it, and in the picture, it was a little girl, plain as day. Very, very clear in the picture. Well, ghost hunters went there, and not the ghost hunter team. Some paranormal investigators had gone there because of the picture that was taken.
Okay.
And they were doing an investigation, and they were doing some EVPs, and they were getting some really grade A EVPs, really, really good EVPs. Well, and they were very correlating. They were asking people's names, and it was correct about the names that were coming out. And it was pretty awesome.
Okay.
Well, in one of the EVPs they got, I didn't agree with what they said they had heard.
Okay, so I don't want to know what you think or what they think. I just want to hear it.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. I'll play it twice before I say anything.
Turn this volume all the way to 11.
With me. There's definitely with me.
Right here.
There's definitely.
Was it that screeching in my ears?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it didn't pick up the volume very good. I didn't replay it after I recorded it. I should. It sounded like I got it good when I first got it. Let's see.
With me.
I'm not. It sounds like someone.
Yeah, it
yelling
didn't sound
at me.
that good. Anyways, they think it says "Get me help." Well, they see this little girl. Right at that same time, they could see the little girl in the bathroom stall in between here.
Okay.
And they what they think it says is "Get me help," and I did not hear "Get me help."
With me.
It only sounds like 2 words or 2 syllables. So
It
there's no way
sounds
it's
really
good.
bad on this now
It
that I
does sound
play it.
bad.
It sounds
I
really
mean, you
bad.
can
I'm gonna take you downstairs after this, and I'm gonna play it for you.
Okay.
But and then what I actually was hearing, I'll get the episode and everything of that.
Okay.
later for
So
you, too.
yeah, if I get a better audio quality of it, I'll add it on here, but I probably won't.
We'll
But
make you
just-
watch it when we get
yeah,
downstairs.
no, that's fine. That's fine. But that doesn't help the people that
No.
are listening to the show. But
Exactly.
So, in what I could kind of make out, like you saying they said it said "Get me help."
Get me help.
"Get me help" is what they said it said, right?
Yeah.
I only hear 2 syllables, so I don't think it says "Get me help." But it just kind of, it almost sounds like "Get out," like a long drawn, like "Get out."
Okay, I'm gonna have you listen to it downstairs after this.
But I mean, that's not a very good.
because you're onto it. I was hearing "Get him out."
Okay, so I'll listen to it.
And I think it has to do with this little girl saying "Get him out." I think there's something else to this whole story.
Quite possibly.
We got to find out where this is and go travel. Now I'm
Yeah,
very
we'll add it to
intrigued.
our list of places we'll never go.
Scared and fascinated.
Me too.
We haven't said it this episode yet. I had to throw it in there.
I'm scared.
I'm fascinated.
All right.
Let's call that an episode, shall
Okay,
we?
but before we do,
Uh-huh.
check out our social media, evp.pod at Instagram and Facebook, where, like I said, there is stuff from the Oddities and Curiosity Expo. That's also where DVO puts a bunch of reaction videos, and he's done some really good ones lately. Go check them out. If you have something that we've missed on the Highgate Vampire, or if we said something wrong, call us out. We'll even mention it on the next episode.
Yeah.
Because, hey, we're wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
We're not always right.
But you're petty enough to hit up all your friends
Yeah.
and tell them that you're a
We
piece
will.
of
So
shit.
you email us and we'll find you
We'll
and tell
find all your
everybody-
friends.
Yeah.
We'll tell them you're a piece of shit.
We're not wrong ever. So email us to tell us that we're wrong at evp.pod@gmail.com. Honestly, like, we can take criticism. We don't care. Like, we're not Sean Manchester.
Ghosty don't play that.
Peace out, butterflies. But before you peace out, yo, buy tickets to our upcoming Ghost Hunt at the Ritz Theater Saturday,
September 30th.
Tickets are $50. Now we can peace out.
Butterflies.
This is the EVP Podcast.